Hey everybody, it's Dr. William Clark here. Glad to have you in the house for the Dr. William Clark podcast. This is the podcast where we focus on how to simplify your fundraising results to build 6 and 7 figure programs. Glad to be in the house with you guys today for another live recording. Super thankful that we have this opportunity to kind of connect and to do our thing. I always enjoy the time that we have together to grow and to learn. It's a great, glorious morning, mainly because we are live. We're able to do it right. We're able to get it done. And so I'm super thankful for that. As always, we're live in Clubhouse recording this session. We are talking about how to raise $100,000 in 6 months. We're in this series now where we're talking about it. And we've been covering a number of subtopics as it relates to this topic to help us, walk through this particular understanding of how to raise $100,000 in 6 months. So I'm super excited to come to you guys today. I want to cover this topic of how to do so with individual donors. We've covered it a number of times. And I got some folks in Clubhouse and on the stage kind of walk through the example of how to do that, what it looks like, the reality of how to make this happen for your organization, because it's really important that we all learn how to raise money from individual donors, and specifically if you're looking to do so with the help of individual donors. It's going to be super important for us to learn how to do that and how to frame our thoughts around that. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Also, want to acknowledge that this particular episode and the live recording of this podcast is brought to us by the nonprofit fundraising masterclass. This masterclass was created with you in mind, with the express purpose of helping you simplify your strategy to raise serious money for your organization. And if that's what you're into, if that's what you need, certainly please go ahead and submit your application to join the masterclass. It's a live coaching program that we've created. And we encourage you to submit your application. To submit your application, just simply go to nonprofitfundingstrategies.com. Again, that's nonprofitfundingstrategies.com, or tap on my profile pic there and select send me a message through Instagram, and we'll take care of that. Now, with that being said, let's go ahead and invite a couple folks to the stage. This morning, we got Gene and we got Charles. How you guys doing this morning? Welcome to the podcast.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Morning. So what makes this example work in terms of how to talk about individual donors, let me share a few things, and then we'll go through a live scenario. And the reality is, guys, you all are going to give me the data, the stats that you want me to fill into the calculator. And the calculator will then spit out some ideas and samples of what we need to do to make this happen. And I created this calculator with the intent of helping people understand the basics around fundraising and how to just make it super easy, super simple, so that you can, one, execute it on your own, but then two, you can invite your board, your stakeholders, your partners, your friends, your family to be a part of that journey with you. And when you know how to raise money, when you know how to simplify it for your own self, when you know how to bridge the gap for your own understanding of how to put that money together for the express purpose of solving problems for your community and meeting the needs of your community, then it becomes much easier to bring other people along on that journey. So with that being said, here are a couple of thoughts I want to share with you as it relates to raising $100,000 from individual donors. Number one, you can indeed invite high net worth people to give to your organization, and that can quickly solve the problem. So, for example, you can invite high net worth individuals to give you $100,000. Obviously, ask one person, and there you go. You can ask 2 people to give you $50,000. You can ask 4 people to give you $25,000, so on and so on. And you can go ahead and have that conversation. You can go ahead and have people invite. You can go ahead and invite people to give in large sums to your organization. But the reality is, a lot of folks do not know high net worth individuals, and quite frankly, the time it will take to get to know these people, the time it will take to get these people within your circle of influence, within your contact circle, and to be a part of what you got going on, it will take too long, and you will miss your goal of raising $100,000 in 6 months, let alone raising $100,000 in 12 months, 18 months, etc. Because getting to know people who are high net worth takes time. It's a process, and it's not as simple as I'm going to wake up, I'm going to run into these people, and we're going to do business together. They're going to support my worthy cause. I wish it was that easy because if that was the case, I think we all would be hitting our goals. I want to pause here and say good morning to my good people. Miss Gwen, I miss you. Let me bring you up to the stage, Miss Gwen. We have not done a show together. I miss you. That's all I gotta say. I miss you, Miss Gwen. What's up, Sabrina? What's up, Letitia? All right. So we're talking about how to raise $100,000 for individual donors, and we're going through this calculator. Um, but yeah, so when you know how to raise money, it becomes easier. And Letitia, who's part of our masterclass, we did our May cohort session yesterday, our first session yesterday. We talked yesterday, Letitia, about just the psychology of what it means to learn how to raise money first as an individual for your own organization and how it becomes much easier to transition that knowledge to other people, right? And so we're kind of setting the stage there. I want to also set the stage for Gene and Charles before we go through this example to make this statement and make it clear as possible. Raising money, let alone raising money from individuals, is not a people problem. It's not a strategy problem. It's a math problem. Okay? It's all about the math. How do you simplify the math? How do you simplify the thinking around numbers so that you can understand, simply, quickly understand what you need from whom, how many to get to your goal? It is a math problem. Now, some may argue it's a people problem. True. Some may argue it's a strategy problem. I don't think I will fight that. But what I will say, in order to understand the number of people you need in your system to give, and to understand the right strategy and approach to get people to give to your effort, you're going to have to understand the math first, which is why I'm leading with this concept that it is a math problem. So, with that being said, I want to make sure we talk about this from a numerical standpoint. I want to invite. Let me just say good morning to Letitia. Good morning. Welcome to the show. How you doing this morning?
Good morning, Dr. Clark. I am awesome and amazing. Still, I should say, reveling in the knowledge that you dropped on yesterday in our master class. So I'm excited to hear about this topic on today.
So remember yesterday in the masterclass, I told you you're not going to unhear the idea of self leadership, right? I mean, even though I'm not talking directly about it's the same concept, you know. And I think we had a good time. I had a chance to replay our session yesterday, and it was really interesting watching you guys kind of go through that revelation process. And as a teacher, you just don't know when it's going to happen for your students, and so it's always exciting to kind of see the different pain points. And I was experiencing it live with you, so I was watching you respond, but then kind of being able to step back and watch the response of you and other people real time was like just really interesting in the replay. I did upload the replay, by the way, so it's there for you to decipher. So let's welcome Gene. Gene, what's going on, man? How are you?
Good, good. Just starting the day. How you doing?
I'm good, brother. Doing very well. And let me just ask you. You obviously came into the room. We're talking about how to raise $100,000 in 6 months, which is cool. Let me ask you. Do you think that's possible?
Yes, I definitely believe that's possible.
Do you think it's crazy?
No, that's not crazy.
I appreciate that, Gene. What about you, Charles? Do you think it's possible? Do you think it's crazy?
No, anything is possible. Definitely, anything is possible.
Yeah, I receive that, man. Anything's possible. Anything can happen. So, with that being said, which one of you wants to go through this example of how we can calculate the process, how we can solve this math problem of raising $100,000 in 6 months? Either one of you will do just fine.
I don't mind doing that.
All right, cool. All right. So before we do that, tell us about your nonprofit and your project. What do you got going on with your nonprofit?
Okay, so I have my business is called Kingdom Keys Mentoring, and we are a teen mentoring program that helps high school teens figure out the right college, major, and career path for themselves by connecting them to their gifts and their talents, as well as giving them life skills that they're going to need to be successful in life, such as learning how to start to invest, learning about different financial literacy, right? Learning about how to grow a business, just different factors there that will help them kind of give them an extra push in life that we didn't have coming up.
Okay. Thank you for that. And then, in terms of your mentoring program, what do you think is going to be? How much money do you need to raise to kind of do this well?
On a yearly basis,
Yeah, let's go yearly. How much you think you need to raise on a yearly basis to make this thing go?
I think 100K would definitely be like beautiful.
Okay. All right. So then let's do that. Let's talk about 100K. Now, do you have an idea of how to raise 100K in 6 months so that you can meet your goals?
No clue. As far as 6 months, no clue.
Okay. And have you raised any money so far to make that happen?
Yeah, we've raised some capital through a couple grants and donations to the community. Because I've been doing it for 3 years now, so I built that trust within, I guess social media and people around us to see what we're doing. So when I do different, I guess donation drives, we get quite a bit. We get quite a bit of money. Not, I would say not more than 2,000 at a time, maybe. But it definitely, I've earned their trust with what we've been doing the last 3 years.
Okay. All right. So that's cool. So let's kind of go through this journey, Charles, about how to raise $100,000. Let me ask you: have you started the journey of putting in grants for your organization yet, and looking to raise money from other partners who can help you on your journey? Has that started yet?
Yeah. So early this year, we were able to get a grant for $25,000 for SAT and ACT prep. So far, I do have a grant writer, but so far, I think this year we're 1 for 3 as far as getting grants.
Okay. All right. In terms of grants, there's quick advice. There's a lady in the audience by the name of the Grant Lady. Tap on her profile, send her a message, and reach out to her. She has access to all types of grants that can help you on your journey. So as we go through this example of how to raise money from individual donors, that's going to be separate from what Miss Gwen can do for you. So she's a great resource. Okay. But with that being said, let's talk about like the $100,000 process. In order to raise $100,000, there are a couple of ways that we can do this. Now, remember, Charles, this is a math problem. It's not a people problem. It's not a time problem. It's not an output problem. It's a math problem. Now, when we look at raising $100,000, how many people do you realistically have in your network that you believe you can make contact with to help you raise money in some form or some fashion?
I would say in large increments or small increments.
It doesn't even matter.
Okay, I would say I got 20 people that I know I can go to, and that definitely would give.
Any amount, small, like, even if it's pennies.
Yeah, I would say, well, if you're talking about larger scale, I would say like 5 that would be able to do small, medium, large.
Okay, so between small, medium, large, you have about 20 people right now you know of.
Correct.
All right, cool. So one of the things I want to kind of frame up for you and everyone else as we talk about this topic around how to raise money from individual donors is really, really important to understand the math behind what we're trying to do and what we're trying to accomplish. And what we're trying to accomplish at this early juncture is to figure out how to get our 20 supporters that we know of right now to be a part of our giving circle. And to make that happen, to make that giving circle kind of a reality for all of us, we're going to have to look at we got to look at what amount are we going to need for them to give. Now, what the calculator is saying, Charles, is that in order for us to raise $100,000 from your circle of 20 people, let's say a 26-week period, which is literally 6 months, we were going to have to ask them to give $192.31 a week. Okay?
Okay.
Now, if we change if we can change any other number in the process, it will allow us to kind of lower that amount. When we look at individual donors as potential supporters, as people who can help us on our journey, The goal is to understand the math and to simplify what we're going to ask them. Now, Charles, do you think your network has the ability to give you $192.31 a week? Is that realistic for all 20 people?
I would say yes.
Okay. So I wasn't expecting that because most people say no. So that is fine. Now, what if you had a response from someone who says, Charles, that's a tough ask. What do you think we need to change in our calculation to lower the amount of money we're asking every person to give?
Get more people, I guess, all right, or find more people that we can give.
Absolutely. So with that example in mind, let's look at the probability that you can have 50 people in your network. If we added 50 people to your network who has the potential to give, that lowers the average ask of every donor to $76.92. Now, when you look at your core network of 20 people, what do you think is more attractive, $193 or $77?
77.
All right. So let's kind of continue to work through the math here. Let's say you did some really hard work and you built up your network, built up relationships, and you develop a network of 100 people and you need to raise money in 6 months. Now the ask of everyone in your network, all 100 people, is $38.46. What's more attractive, $197 or $39?
$39.
All right. Let's do it one more time. Let's say you had this big event. And all it was designed to do was to tell your story, share your mission, and to just make some new friends, right? Just make some new friends who will support what you got to do, what you have going on. And let's say over the next 3 months, you kept hosting these events week after week after week after week to the point where you've built up your network to over 500 people. Now, when you have 500 people in your network and you invite them to give, let's assume a third of them give. Let's say 200 people give. If you have 200 people give every week to your organization, that calculates out to $19.23. So when we look at our original example of $197 or so every week versus $19 every week, what do you think is more attractive to your entire network?
The $19.
Right. Now, one of the things I don't want you guys to do is to focus on the $19 as the solution, and that's what you go to pitch people. That's the wrong strategy to have, right? This is where strategy comes into play. Because if you say, all right, we're going to ask 200 people to give $19, but you don't have 200 people already ready, primed, and ready to go to give, then when you don't hit your goal of 200 people, but you have 75 people giving $19, you're going to fall well short of your goal. So it's really important to have your math down in terms of what you want people, how many people you want in your system, how many weeks you want them to give, so you can have that weekly output. But then now the goal is to now raise that number of people inside your contact list who are ready to go. And let's say you say, I have a goal of 200 people in my platform that I want to hit, who's going to say, yes, I want to give. But throughout your networking, throughout your event planning, throughout your strategy development process, you're only able to make contact with about a good 125 people who've made a commitment to give. So now, since you did not tell anyone what your weekly ask is, you redo the math, and the math says with the 125 people that are ready to give right now, you're going to ask them to give $30.77 every week, and if they're working, they get paid bi-weekly, then that's an ask of $61.54 that they can make in a direct deposit to your organization. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Now, Letitia, I want to bring you in here because obviously we're not going to talk about individual giving strategies per se in the masterclass. But as you reflect on what we talked about yesterday and all the strategies that we started to lay the groundwork for and the foundation for, what's going through your mind as you kind of hear the math? And what goes through your mind when you hear me say this is a math problem and not a people problem? It's not a time problem. It's not a strategy problem. It's a math problem. Like, what's going through your mind there?
The first thing that actually went through my mind is, okay, where am I going to find 200 people willing to give $19 a week? Because that's about, my ask, like Charles, $100,000 a year. But it makes total sense that it is a math problem, because if we don't have the people, well, two things. If we don't have the people, the relationships, the partnerships that are willing to give, and if we are not clear on our numbers of how much it's going to take to run our organization and break it down, because people They're more likely to give to a smaller number. You have to think about the psychology of people as well. They're more willing to give to a smaller number than when you come off saying, okay, I need $200 a week, or, whatever. I can give $40 a week easily, to your nonprofit. But my thing is, I'm all about the network. Where am I going to find 200 people that are willing to give continuously $19 a week, or $40 a week, or $50 a week? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. And I think that's the next appropriate question to ask at this point, right? Where are we going to find the 200 people that will add to our database? Now, my guidance has been and always will be is that you cannot search for 200 people. You're going to have to raise the number there. Again, it goes back to the math. You're likely going to have to look for 300, 400, 500, 1,000 people to add to your network who will eventually dwindle down to the 200 so that you can hit your goal. It's all about mass quantity, how you can hit more people. And this is when I kind of jump in and offer this particular guidance, right? Listening parties are key, right? And I was suggesting this to a lot of my clients pre-pandemic quite a bit, where they can have these listening parties, these events where they can host people to come and listen to their mission and to just be a part of the journey in some form or some fashion, therefore building that relationship with people. Given that we're in this virtual environment, given that we're in a hybrid environment, it's going to be incumbent upon you to figure out how to solve this math problem of how to connect with, let's say for the sake of argument, 500 people. So when you think about your personality, Letitia and Charles, when you think about what you're capable of doing, how do you think you can reach 500 people and have 500 quality touch points?
I would say for me to actually go out to my network and ask them to invite people to a listening party, or, some sort of event where they could hear our mission and our vision and where we're going. I would leverage the network. I would leverage the network that my board has as well. Who do they know that would be willing to come in and listen to our pitch? I would leverage the relationships.
Yep. Charles, what about you? Where do you think you can make some inroads to tap into 500 quality touch points?
I would agree. I would say also, I agree with the point what she made about using the board, leveraging the board's relationships as well. I'm a social media guy. I do social media content, things of that nature. So I would leverage social media as well as one of my ways to kind of us grow, obtain money and donations as well.
Yeah, but now, and I'm glad you said that, Charles. Here's the thing we got to think about. At this early juncture, we're not trying to find donations. We're trying to find 500 quality touch points, 500 quality relationships, 500 quality partnerships that we can start the process of building some sort of relationship with, right? So when you hear that correction, does your strategy still make sense? Does it still fit your mode of how you can move forward and make 500 quality touch points?
I guess for me, because I deal with high schools as well, which I've done this in the past, or build a relationship with certain schools where they would allow me to come maybe to a faculty meeting or whatnot at different schools and present what we have.
Okay, right. And I think for me, I think that is a good strategy. I will also recommend this too, right? Particularly if you have board members, and I'm going to go back to this point you made, Letitia, when you talked about having high quality board members who are going to share their network. One of the things I think that goes underrepresented and untapped is the process of teaching your board how to make those touch points with people that make a difference. So, for example, if your board works for a corporation that has internal mechanisms that allows their employees to take pre-tax dollars to donate to a cause of their choice, have you taught your board? And maybe this is a question that you might not have the answer to, but have you taught your board how to approach their colleagues about the organization that they are chairing or that they're on the board of, and how to make a specific give or make a donation, a weekly or biweekly donation to this organization? Because when you talk about high quality touch points, and one board member has the capacity to have quality touch points with 10 to 20 people within a corporation who will then make an arrangement to give pre-tax dollars to your organization. That's now, that one board member has flipped into 21 high quality touch points. Have you gone through that journey yet, Letitia, to kind of walk your board members through how to approach their colleagues to give?
No, we have not. In fact, I just looked in the audience, and one of my board members is in the audience. But no, we've just recently started meeting. I just started putting my board together, but we have touched on, the funding portion. So, but I told them that I was going through your master class and I'd have more information.
And who's the board member?
Yvonne, right there, Yvonne McKinney.
I'm gonna invite her up to the stage. Miss Gwen, are you available to come up too? Yvonne, welcome to the stage. Sabrina, what's going on? How are you?
Hello.
How are you?
Hey, Yvonne. Let me talk to Sabrina for a quick moment. Sabrina, I know you personally, but what have you done to build up an individual donor base or individual campaign of people who support your worthy cause?
Yeah, so one way that worked on our individual giving is through peer-to-peer fundraising. Much of like what you're speaking of, finding people that may know about the cause, and then they let people know, and so, we have a platform in which we use called Classy, where people can come and donate and then create their own individual campaigns to ask their friends to also donate to the organization. So we found that to be pretty beneficial. We've done it about 2 times, and this last time that we did it, we raised nearly almost a little over $30,000 in like 2 days. So yeah, it's been successful. I mean, I would say for me, it's just the time in which you have to put in to having event after event, especially when you have a small staff and the demand is high for programming.
Yep. And I appreciate that caveat. And Letitia, if you can chime in before we go to Yvonne, what did you learn yesterday about how to budget your time? And I think Sabrina brings up a good point. What were your takeaways from that conversation about budgeting time to go after the money and to still run programming?
But the thing that I got out of it is, one, to have a clear-cut process. When we understand where we're going and what needs to be done, we can convey that to the people that we do have, whether they're volunteer or staff, and to stay focused on our main goal. Our main goal is to raise funds and then delegate the rest to the other people, so that we don't get caught up in the shiny object syndrome of trying to be here, there, and everywhere. That was probably my biggest takeaway from yesterday's class, is to stay focused on what I need to do.
Yeah, that's really good, and I still want to underscore. Yeah, go right ahead. I was going to say, Sabrina, and bring you back here. I don't want to ignore what you brought up, because what you brought up still matters a lot. That there's a high demand on your time. Go right ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, just to that point, sometimes when you have large entities or corporations that are watching you via social media, it's like the big companies that are contacting you, you have to really, I feel you have to stay relevant, and they want to see that you're doing certain things, that you're, keeping your mission alive. And so I feel that the fine line between, writing grants, fundraising, and then also, delivering the programming.
Yeah. I get it. Yvonne, welcome to the stage. How are you? There you go. We can hear you now. How are you, Yvonne? Ooh, your signal's she dropped. All right, yeah, and Sabrina, I think you made a good point, right, about balancing all of that, trying to figure out how to deliver on services so that big funders can still get the point that you care, right? But I think it's also an unfair expectation, whether self-imposed or real, right, that you have to spend 100% of the time in the field doing the work. And the problem that I have with that perspective is because if you're not a general if you as a leader of your organization are not worried about the sustainability of your work and building new relationships that can yield the ongoing revenue month after month, quarter after quarter, year after year, then who will? Because the flip side to all of this as well is funders are notorious for saying, I don't want to be the only or major or biggest funder in your portfolio. Because if we stop funding you, then that runs the risk of putting your organization and the work you've done at risk. So then what are you left to do, right? It's also like the same argument when funders say, and Ms. Gwen, I don't know if you're available to come up and talk about this. It's the same when funders say in the grant application, well, we're going to limit what you can ask for admin support. Typically it was 10%. Now it's dropped, right? Depending on the funder, it can be as low as 4 or 2%, right? And so I think it's a balance in terms of figuring out how to deliver on services. With that being said, Ms. Gwen, good morning. What are your thoughts about this topic?
Good morning. I'm driving, so I wasn't going to say it. But it's an exciting topic, and you all are handling it well.
Yeah, but you auntie, though. You got something to add to this. We need to hear it.
In terms of a nonprofit, if you want to make some money for aside, grants take almost 6 months to
Ms. Gwen, I think we might have lost you.
go if you had to raise $100,000 in 6 months. I can do it, but it's for well-established organizations that have been getting grants already. So I'm going to count out the grants. I would say corporate sponsorships.
Absolutely.
And schedule some events back to back where you have sponsorships. And most of my corporate sponsorships successfully were programs for children where I could get McDonald's and Burger King and Chick-fil-A and those kinds of companies to sponsor, events, and also bring in national speakers and stuff to speak. And the sponsors would love it because they could see that you're going to have, a lot of people at your event. I would say corporate sponsorships. I would say also political donations. Politicians have what they call discretionary funds, and I would get $10,000 from 10 politicians for something in their community among their constituents. If you're doing, and most of you are doing capacity building. Well, Dr. Clark, you're doing capacity building right now. So when you build capacity into a community like you're doing on your page, building capacity, well, the politicians will give you the money. They all have a budget. They all have money to give away called discretionary funds, and we don't tap into that enough. So I would say corporate sponsorships. And then if you're a well-established nonprofit, as I do today, I do fiscal sponsorships. So I'm a fiscal sponsor for several organizations that don't want to be a 501c3. They're an LLC, but they are doing some work that the funders are proud of, and especially during this COVID. They are getting that virtual classroom money, and it's mostly daycare centers, and so I'm their fiscal sponsor. So I get 10% of all the money that they get. So that's easy to get $100,000. And if you're a well-established nonprofit, you can, look out on the field and see who's just getting started and become their fiscal sponsor. Only if they're doing great work and they could show the foundation that is valuable, and worthy of funding. My name is Gwen, and I'm done speaking.
I have a question for you, Ms. Gwen, before you go back on mute. Can you speak to what Sabrina talked about, which is striking that balance between doing the work and pursuing funding, particularly if you're in the 5 to 7 year, 7-year-old range of your organization?
Well, the board's supposed to do the fundraising. I don't know who she is. I mean, she's the director, right, or something?
Yeah, she's the founder and executive director.
So you should have a strategic plan, and your strategic plan should have a diversified funding stream, which includes grants, fundraising, corporate sponsorship, political donations, board donations, personal donations, speaker services, and of course tax write-offs for goods and services. So a established nonprofit should have a strategic plan. The last page of the strategic plan is called the Fund Development Plan. So that should be in place, and it should be being executed by the board of directors.
There you go. I don't know, for folks who are on the stage, Yvonne, I'll bring you back. I know you got disconnected earlier. When you hear Ms. Gwen share that advice, which is good advice, and as a board member who's currently serving, right, what are your thoughts about that feedback?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, great. I'm all for it. I feel like it's a really good thing for me. With me, I've been going back because I'm from Ohio, so I've been going back to members at my church and just asking them to donate and be donors and see if we can get funding that way through GiftSmart, which will allow me to text them and give for them to give that way.
Absolutely. And then the part about individual donors, when we talked about having these high touch point, high quality contact points with potential donors, what are you doing from a strategy standpoint as a board member to connect with high quality people, and high quality meaning people who will take your phone call, who will hear you out, who will have a desire to give? What do you do to make those quality touch points?
Really, we're just getting started, so we haven't even have our board all the way selected. So I'm really just new to this and don't know much. So I'm really just trying to learn all I can learn to get to that point.
Okay. All right. Well, there we have it, Letitia. So Letitia, in the masterclass, we're gonna have to work through some of this so we can help Yvonne.
Yes, absolutely.
So back to the point of this particular conversation in terms of how to tap into individual donors, guys. It really comes down to the math, right? And I love how Ms. Gwen integrated into her response the importance of a fundraising plan. We typically advise, whether you're a new organization, mature organization, or between, to focus on the 4 core documents. What are they? They are your strategic plan, your fundraising plan, your master grant application, and now your multi-year budget. And when we talk about the fundraising plan, specifically, we're talking about how much we're going to raise, how much do we need to really have impact and to have the results we're looking for, and then who's going to do it, who on the board, who on our staff, if we have staff whose job is to develop funds, who's going to take responsibility to raise this money, right? And when it comes down to individual donors, every board member can play an active role in bringing high touch point individuals into the network of giving. But I will also put out here for all of the leaders who are listening, right? While your board does play an important role in fundraising, and Ms. Gwen is absolutely correct, it's still incumbent upon you to think about what you must do as the leader of your institution to get out there and to tell the story and to draw people in to your network. People are drawn in a number of ways, whether obviously most people are going to yield to social media. But I would venture to say that there's a much broader approach that you can take that can help you show up more frequently and more consistently. And that approach is to just simply be present. And that can be seen or displayed in a number of ways because, unfortunately, social media has put us all in a box where people, unless they are interrupted by something that captures their attention, we run the risk of being one of those posters, if you will, that people just scroll through, and maybe they'll leave a like, maybe they'll leave a heart. And so the question becomes, Where can we show up where real life people exist and where we can interrupt their routine to capture their attention? Now, how do you do that? It varies based upon where you are and what you do and how you do it. But I would tell you one of the ways to do that, and as Ms. Gwen alluded to, showing up where the politicians are. Where are they? Where are they going to be? And can you be a part of that particular event or situation where you can present your organization and invite people to the listening party? Whether it's showing up at other provider meetings with other folks who are doing the work, who have an interest in what you're doing, can you show up there? What about in specific niche boutique places in your community? Are you showing up there? So on and so on. And I gotta stress this point, guys. Once you find your high quality touch points, it's really, really important. Really, really important to evaluate how you can convert those touch points into multiplied high value touch points. Again, we talked about how your board members are an example of a high quality touch point. How can you convert one board member into 21 high value touch points? Well, you have that board member go to their corporation and invite their colleagues to use their pre-tax donation dollars to give to your organization on a bi-weekly basis, automatic draft, withdrawal, and deposit into your account. Furthermore, can you turn 21 into 42? It's possible. If you invite all 21 donors to another listing party where you share more, you give more insight into what you got going on, and you invite them to encourage their colleagues to do the same thing. You can turn 42 into 84, and that conversion process can keep going on and on and on. I do want to invite Charles back, Letitia back, Ms. Gwen back, and Yvonne back. When you hear kind of that further explanation, Charles, when you hear what Ms. Gwen has shared, how can you take that information and run with it?
I would say just apply it. You know, thank you for I'm excited that I was even able to catch this clubhouse meeting because it's so important. This is super informative, and I followed you on other clubhouse events, but this is what I needed right now. To help generate funding. So I would say just apply it. No better use than applying it. It makes no sense to have information and don't apply.
Awesome, man. Awesome, and I appreciate you using that language, right? Because I think at the end of the day, if we don't take action, we're kind of having this conversation for nothing. So I appreciate that. And matter of fact, I just shot you a DM, Charles. I think that if you are in the space to do so, it's going to be really, really important for you to consider joining our masterclass. And quite frankly, I think the masterclass can be of super high value to what you have going on, which then segues to Letitia. Letitia, if you could state one reason why Charles or anyone else should be a part of the masterclass, what would be that compelling reason you would share with them?
To gain the knowledge faster instead of being out here flailing around trying to figure it out.
Oh, that's good.
Just get into the master class
and
get the information right now and start applying it right now.
Oh, that's good.
That would be my most, because that's why I joined. I'm I don't have time to waste trying to go to this clubhouse room, this Google. I just joined the master class because our first conversation was right on point and I knew it was what I needed. So if anybody else needs to join the master class, please do so. Don't waste time trying to figure this out by yourself.
I couldn't say it better myself. Yvonne, what are your takeaways from this conversation today?
Hello. I actually learned a lot. A lot of this I didn't know. So I'm really glad that I came on and listened just to learn more, to be able to better help my organization and raise funding so we can get to our goal and do what needs to be done in our community.
Yeah, awesome sauce. And I appreciate you guys hanging out. I do want to provide just an opportunity for anyone else in the audience to come on, raise your hand, ask your questions. What we talked about today was how to raise money from individual donors. We went through this particular calculator that helped us calculate the math problem that we have. And the math problem comes down to how many people do we need to have in our system over a period of time to give us $100,000 over 6 months. Maybe you're in the audience and you're saying, Dr. Clark, I really need, 12 months to make this happen. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. As a matter of fact, let's take the example we got from Charles, right? Let's change our calculator to a 52-week, 12-month cycle of fundraising, and let's say we spent the time of building a network of 200 people who are going to give to our organization. Can you guys take a wild guess of how much we would ask 200 people to give every week if we had 52 weeks to raise $100,000? Any guesses in the audience? None. Okay. So this is going to blow your mind. We would ask 200 people to give $9.62 a week for 52 weeks. That's absolutely nothing. And again, as we talked about, you don't want to lead with, hey, give $9.62. No, the lead is, I need you to come and listen to this vision, this mission that we have, and we're building a network of people who care about this particular mission, who want to be a part of it, who want to contribute to it. Now, what we eventually ask people depends upon how many people we invite to an event. And I'm glad I brought this up, right? Because I think one of the ways to think about this in a practical sense, and then Letitia, since you're in the masterclass, I think this would be great for you to get some feedback on. Let's say we do have a goal of 200 people, and let's say our goal is now stretched out to $100,000 in 12 months. What if we had a listening party and we were able, and notice my language, I'm not saying we only got, but let's say we were able to accommodate 25 people for our first party. So what that puts into perspective is, what do we need to ask these 25 people to give, right? Now, the calculator says over a 12-week period, we should ask these 25 people to consider a gift of $76.92. And what that kind of puts us at over every 2 weeks would be roughly $154. Now, when it comes to making an ask, guys, you cannot be afraid of making the very specific ask that you have. Trust the calculator. And I have yet to determine if I'm going to make this calculator public and free to download, but the math is accurate. Trust the math. So when you're in this situation, guys, you want to make the ask of $76.92 every week as a give to this organization. And if your story is compelling, if your mission is compelling, if you are compelling, obviously you're going to have some folks, other 25 are going to give. But then what you are after that point are people who are not able to commit to $76.92 a week, but are willing to commit to $50 a week, willing to commit to $30 a week, willing to commit to $20 a week, right? You want to start with your top line ask of $76.92, and then you want to go down, but you want to make sure you give people an opportunity. The goal is to give people an opportunity to give. You want to give people the opportunity to partner. You want to give people the opportunity to align themselves with your organization. And your job during the process of selling during this listening party is to offer a compelling reason for them to give and to partner. Now, when you have your next listening party 1 week later, 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, and you're able to accommodate 30 people, you go through the same process. The calculator says if you have 30 people at your event, you're going to make the ask of $64.10. Make the ask, make the offer, present the opportunity. And if people are not able to meet the opportunity of $64.10 every week, then offering them an opportunity to give at $50 a week, $30 a week, $20 a week. And you do it again 2 weeks later, do your next event. What you want to do is get in the mode of, as the executive director, selling. You are the salesperson in chief. You are the curator of the external brand of the organization. You are the cheerleader in chief. And if you're not in a position where you're selling and pitching your organization on a consistent basis with a consistent message to a growing audience, then you're losing the opportunity to find out who is willing to transfer dollars to your organization as a form of support. Letitia, when you hear that breakdown of the consistent regimen, the system of doing listening parties, the consistency, what are your thoughts? What are your reaction? What is your reaction to that?
So, I don't know if you can hear me, but the first thing I think of is my train of thought, and I don't know if Yvonne is still on, but we had talked about this our last board meeting about doing a virtual housewarming party, excuse me, which is the same concept to, of course, pitch the nonprofit to those we can get into the room. So I'm like, okay, confirmation of what I need to be doing. and as well being consistent with the messaging, being consistent not just with me but with the board members as well. Having a consistent message so that when they're talking to people, when they're inviting people to the listening party, that we're getting those quality people in the room, and we are always selling. As executive directors, we are always selling. So every time I do a Facebook Live, every time I talk to someone, every time I'm like, I am CEO and founder of the Impact Her Global Ministries and the Exodus House. I'm telling them this is what we are, this is what we're doing, and I invite you to, of course, check out our website. If you want to talk with me, to partner with me, let's have a conversation, let's schedule some time. We're always selling from the time we get up to the time we go to sleep. We're selling.
Yep. And I think that's an important distinction that you're making for you and your board member there. And for other people who are listening to this, some people may not like the term selling. Fine. If you don't like it, fine. But think about this. You're always making an offer. You're always presenting an opportunity. And you typically hear that language from the world of multi-level marketing. And I know some people are creeped out by multi-level marketing, but there's a lot you can learn from the marketing strategies that come out of that particular business structure. You always want to present the opportunity because you never know who you were running to, who was looking, who just this morning prayed for an opportunity to make an impact. And what if that opportunity was what you had to offer, but you were too scared to make the offer? You were too scared to make the ask. And in addition, I can't stress enough before we go to Antoine, I can't stress enough for you to trust the math. Make the offer according to what the math suggests, and that's it. Make the offer. And when you've closed that round of requests, then you want to give people another opportunity to give at a different level. But please, with confidence, with firmness, and with everything you have within you, make the ask, make the offer, present the opportunity at the top line of what the calculator is suggesting. And before we go to Antoine yet again, do the math according to who's in the room. I've yet, and Letitia, I may make this available to you guys in the masterclass, so make sure you ask me next week. But if you guys get your hands on this calculator, it's really important, guys, to make sure you adjust the numbers according to who's in the room. That way you're not looking crazy asking people to give you $9.62, but then you never really reach your goal. You want to establish these goals real time based upon who's actually in the room. Antoine, welcome back to the stage. I haven't seen you in a minute. How are you? Let me just say, welcome to the live recording podcast. How are you?
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name's Antoine Roberts. Yes, I miss coming to the room.
How's everything going? How are things in Florida?
It's crazy. It's Florida, so I'm used to it.
Oh, man. What's going on? What's your question?
I have a question. So when we're in the process of trying to establish these partnerships and bring on possible reoccurring like donors, do you feel like in the beginning stages, say when you're like, you feel like in the next month you're getting like your first 100, do you feel like at that point it's mandatory to start paying for a donor management platform? And if so, do you have any that you recommend?
I do not have a platform I recommend. I know others are using some, so I don't have a recommendation there. I will say when it comes to a platform of choice, if you have your reoccurring donors coming in some way, somehow, do your research, do the math, see what makes sense. I will say in terms of my perspective on this, I care more about the fact that money's coming in than the platform itself. Because relationships, no matter how they're maintained, whether it's through a regular text message, a messaging system, social media, email, smoke signals, pigeons, pigeon carriers, snail mail, whatever the case may be, relationship management is an active sport. And we're always making adjustments. So in this case, I do not have a specific recommendation, but I will invite others on the stage who are using a donor management platform to make their recommendations.
Thank you.
Are there others on the stage who may have a recommendation for Antoine? Okay, seeing none. I would say, Antoine, do your research and figure out, which one feels comfortable to you, right? And figure out what fits in your budget after the money starts coming in. One of the things I don't want to see happen is folks to start looking for donor management platforms and they don't have money at all. They don't have their first event scheduled. Keep it simple. The first event, right? The first couple events, you might want to just use PayPal and keep it moving. You might want to use, well, no, I was going to say Cash App, but I prefer PayPal or something like Square because people may want to set up a reoccurring auto deduction. Cash App doesn't allow that, but PayPal and Square Up does. But use those platforms to get you started, right? All that matters above all else is the process and the act of selling and making the offer. If we worry about platforms and technology more than we worry about the process of selling, refining our pitch, then we're losing focus on what really matters most. Does that help, Anthony?
Yes, it does. And that's what we're doing now. We're doing PayPal, and then we have spreadsheets also to like help us with managing like the service level. Yeah. And I just wanted to make sure I wasn't like missing like something that we would need to put in a budget for a donor platform. But if you're saying that PayPal works, we will continue doing what we've been doing.
Yeah, keep it simple, man. I mean, it's not that deep, and I think people get too fancy for their own good. And again, these are the same people who haven't made any sales, right? The whole goal is to make sales, to make offers, to have people sign up for your platform. I do want to go back to something that Letitia mentioned, and I can't stress this enough. We talked about this yesterday in the masterclass, Staying in Your Lane. We keep talking about the fundraising masterclass because if you're not in it, you missed it, and you don't know what the heck we're talking about. So I recommend if you want to join the masterclass, go to nonprofitfundingstrategies.com. Again, that's nonprofitfundingstrategies.com. Submit your application or shoot me a DM and ask me for the application. It's worth it because we go deeper into coaching. The coaching is much more intense and much more intentional than what we do here in Clubhouse. So if you need all of that good stuff and you need that type of support, and as Letitia says, you're tired of wasting time, you want to get direct to the point and get to where you need to be faster, then join this masterclass. Shoot me a DM or go to nonprofitfundingstrategies.com. But one of the things she mentioned yesterday was making sure that you have this insane and intentional focus on the same message. And the cool thing, what I love about what you said, Letitia, is that when you have this super focus on the same message, the funny thing is, and remember, Letitia, when we closed our session yesterday, we were asking one of the students to give us her 5 steps to meeting her goal, her specific goal. And I pointed out that the more she kept saying it, the easier it got for her to say it, to the point that we could recite it, right? And I think that's a great example of what it means to sell a singular, focused, specific message over and over and over and over again. As you guys come into the room with me, you hear me talk about the 4 core documents: fundraising plan, strategic plan, master grant application, and a multi-year budget. It took me some time to get to that point to kind of distill it down, but that's what it comes down to. The 3 secrets of fundraising: strategy, performance, and relationships, right? There has to be this quick pitch, the direct to the point element of your talk, of your pitch, of your offer, that allows people to get the point of what you are saying. And if you're struggling with that, it could be because you're talking about way too much and not talking about what matters most.
Absolutely. And Dr. Clark, this morning, it was still, her 5 steps were still ringing in my head. And I'm like, I put it on my calendar. I said, okay, you need to work on like your 3 to 5 top steps, and let's stay focused on that.
Oh my goodness.
It was awesome.
Yeah, it was
awesome.
And man, there was so many revelations, right? And you know, I'm doing this on purpose so people can stop playing around during the masterclass. But one of the cool things that comes out of that repetition, Letitia, is the fact that your staff, once they keep hearing the same darn thing over and over and over again, they start to talk like you. They start to sound like you. And we talked about yesterday, what is leadership? It's all about influence. It's about that consistency, that reverberating action, that reverberating message that continues to drill into their head this normalcy of what we expect from them. Before we close the room today, any parting thoughts? Charles, we'll start with you. What are your parting thoughts, and what are you going to get done this week to start raising $100,000? In a variety of ways, particularly from individual donors.
So for that part, I would say I already did it. I just signed up for your master class. So that's definitely
hold on, Charles.
I needed to do.
Hold on. Let's hold on. Hold that thought. Okay, Charles. Okay, continue. We'll add you to welcome to the family, sir.
Yeah, thank you. That's my, like I said, I followed you in a couple of other rooms, and I'm like, it was kind of a blessing. I kind of needed it today. So when I chimed in and I'm hearing what I'm hearing, I'm like, man, I never, like you said, it's all about the math, right? It's the math, and the math makes sense. So now, if it makes sense to me and you present it to me, now I can see how I can present it to others, right? And it makes sense. So, like, I'm with you. Like, I think you got a lot to tell and show. So I'm with you, Dr. Clark. So I'm
Love
in.
it. So as a housekeeping, Charles, go back to the link in your DM and fill out the formal app so we can have your information in the database so we can provide coaching according to what you submit. Okay? You went on mute.
So go back to the
link.
The app.
Yeah, go back to the app and make sure you fill out the top portion so we can have your information in there about your nonprofit and all the good stuff.
Okay.
All right. Welcome to the family, man. Letitia.
Welcome,
Letitia.
Charles. Welcome.
Tell him,
be
Letitia.
so happy you came in.
Thank you.
Tell him, Charles. There's so much. When I get your cell phone number from the application, Charles, we'll text you. You can watch yesterday's session, but it's going to be fire, man. So I appreciate you taking action, man. And there's so much to do. Yvonne, what are you doing this week? What action are you going to take this week?
Sorry, I'm on a work call. Can you give me a second?
Serve them customers. It's all right. And today, what action are you taking this week? I know you're killing them in Florida. You might be on mute.
Yes, I'm actually talking to one of my employees. I'm so
It's
sorry.
all
Can
right.
I come back?
It's all right. Letitia, what action are you taking this week? I know you're obviously in the masterclass. What are you doing this week?
This week, I am actually honing in on my message. I have a meeting with my board on tomorrow, actually. And so this will be a part of our conversation, is honing that message and being able to say, it's, the same thing as we, pitch our partners or those that we come in contact with. That's what I'm going to be working on today, so I can be able to present it to them tomorrow.
Yeah, I love it. I absolutely love it. And I love the fact that you were a part of the conversation yesterday to see the value of that, right? And I want to point out before we go to Auntie Gwen, right? I remember yesterday, Letitia, when our student, our cohort member was saying, why? Why do you keep asking me to repeat this? It's getting on my nerves, right? And then one of my responses was, well, your staff asked you the same question too. Well, why? Why do we have to do this? And when she kept repeating the same thing over and over again, it just stuck. And the other cohort member said, I'm not even interested in doing this, but darn it, I feel like I can if I wanted to. Right? That empowerment.
She sure did. Mm-hmm.
The empowerment is just unreal when we simplify the message. And the crazy thing is, Letitia, when you start doing this and messing around doing this with potential donors and you keep repeating the same thing, and Charles is an example of this, where people come check you out, they're not signing up, they're not giving, they're not volunteering, but they keep coming to the listening party over and over. Something's going to click at some point. Something's going to give at some point. And even if they're not the one to give, what I've been talking to my church about is that sometimes you're the middleman to someone else's success. That person may be a middleman to someone else who's going to be a blessing to you. Auntie, go ahead, Letitia.
Right there.
Yeah.
That was good, Dr. Clark, because I usually tell people that when you're walking in purpose, you unlock someone else's purpose.
Absolutely.
So the longer you wait to walk in, in alignment with your purpose, you hold up someone else. So that's good, though. Absolutely.
Miss Gwen, can you close us out? What are your parting thoughts? What's your parting wisdom for all of us as it relates to raising serious money from individual donors?
I would say base everything you do on volume and break it down to its least common denominator. Dr. Clark, you've been talking about the math. So I would base everything on the least amount from the most people. And everywhere, every fundraising event, I would give out the donor cards and make sure that people are committing to give to my organization for the year to come or the next 6 months. That would be what I would do, and that's what we do at all our banquets, outdoor events. We pass out cards so that people could actually sign up to give so much per month. As opposed to mailers, we are actually, boots on the ground giving out the donor cards everywhere. I mean, everywhere, in the grocery store, wherever we meet people that we see or they think they know us, we give them a donor card. And that's how you eat an elephant, one little bite at a time, and you will get there, because goals are real. And if you establish them, you will arise. And my last thing I would say, we the willing, serving the ungrateful, have done so much with so little that now we can almost do anything with nothing. God bless you all. Have a great day.
There's nothing else to say. Miss Gwen, Auntie Gwen, Grandma Gwen, Mama Gwen, whatever you want to call her, the Grant lady, she said it all. I'm going to close by saying, if this is the type of coaching you need, join the fundraising masterclass. We're accepting applications right now. Go to nonprofitfundingstrategies.com. Again, that's nonprofitfundingstrategies.com, or shoot me a DM and I'll send you the link. Also, she just left. But Miss Gwen, if you guys ever see her on social media, the Grant lady, she has tons of resources around what grants are available to you. Would you please shoot her a message? Would you please connect with her? She is a wonderful resource to you and will be a blessing to your organization. This is Dr. William Clark for the Dr. William Clark Podcast. We'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace, everybody.